Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder. And folks, I've got an extra special treat joining me in the Hit Lab today, all the way from Tupelo, Mississippi. Folks, he's the founder and CEO of Bobby Brock Insurance. He's the founder of Medicare Con. He is a sought-out thought leader and a veteran of our United States Armed Forces. My man is in the building. Justin Brock, how we doing, baby?
How you doing? Great. Thank you so much for having me here. Love to be in Nashville, even though it's rainy and all this is going on. You know, it is a great time to be here. You have a great studio, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be here, brother.
First hit of the day, baby. You're batting 1,000, man. You know what I'm talking about?
That's right.
Well, dude, we got to get right into it, folks. Check this out. All right. We're coming out of the gates swinging. All right. Justin, first of all, congratulations on what I'm about to say. It's a big deal. All right. Very few people in the history of their life and business can say they've done what you did earlier this year in March, right? So, folks, in March of 2024, Justin's business was evaluated at $70 million. And he sold 51% of it, right? So, dude, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we were, weren't building to that the whole time. But once it was in sight and those offers started coming in, it was very exciting to know that somebody valued what we had been building at that rate.
It's unbelievable. Like, seriously, there's like, I can count on the folks that I know on both hands that can have accomplished anything like that. Most folks would say, I don't know anybody that has done that, right? So let's break that down, because that's a big old number. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
that's
sir.
a big old number. So like, everybody's a Shark Tank fan these days, right? So let's just treat it like this is Shark Tank. So your company got evaluated at $70 million. Let's break that down a little bit and talk about what it means when you sell 51% of it, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, earlier this year, is actually beginning of fourth quarter last year, we started talking to an organization called AmeriLife. They're a platform company in the life, health, annuity, Medicare space that comes in and buys portfolio companies, and they have a portfolio of those companies. And we started talking to organizations like that a few years ago, but once we started seeing what the values were, we didn't feel like we were there yet. But come the fourth quarter of last year, we got a letter of intent put in front of us with a figure, similar to what we're talking about, saying, hey, if you sign this, we can go into due diligence and we can start working these values out. But basically, it's just looking at what are your earnings, based on the industry that you're in, what kind of multiples are assigned to earnings in that range within that industry, and then what's your growth rate, and then there's a whole lot of other factors that go into what makes a business that valuable. But and when I got into insurance, I didn't know shit about selling a business. All I knew was I got to sell some insurance.
That's right.
But it's amazing looking back now what each individual policy, each process you develop, each employee that you train turns into and can turn into. And technically it could get more valuable than what we did. There's people that I know that have sold for $1.2 billion, big organizations like that. So, it's cool. It's cool in that way, but did 51% because I want to see what we can do with the remaining 49, and I trust the partners right now. And I feel like we're going to take that remaining 49% and sell it for double what we did the first half.
So let's stay there for a minute. All right. Because being in the insurance industry for, I guess, 13 years now. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Yeah, that's about maybe it's 12. It's 12 years now. That was that's how my wife and I figured life out together. You know what I mean? It was doing that. And dude, we all start in the same spot, right? Getting licensed, getting contracted with a carrier or multiple carriers or brokerage or whatever, and then trying to sell our first policy, right? That's where we all start. So how long have you been in the insurance space?
So I got licensed in February 2014. So I'm when I sold, I was 1 month over 10 years in the industry.
All right. So, and that's a life-changing acquisition, right? That's a life-changing transaction.
I would say so. There's a certain degree of, floor to what my, family's income can be now that, most people, even myself, never even thought we would be there. And now that's the floor based on, just kind of interest income. So
there's going to be a whole lot of insurance agents listen to this episode, right? So I really want to speak to those guys because, dude, in the beginning, it's just like anything that's worth it. It's extremely hard, all right? But like at the end of the day, I would just say you're a better dreamer than other folks that haven't accomplished something like that yet, right? You know what I mean? So because that means you took something and made it extremely large, all right? You went from selling one policy at an annual premium that has an average of so on and so forth for those products. And then you did that a whole lot. And then that led into helping other people do it and so on and so forth. So like, I mean, dude, I want to just stay there for a minute because like there's so many insurance agents that'll listen to this. Like how big can they dream and what can we give them today to make sure that like, dude, I don't think anybody goes to school and stands up on career day and says, when I get older, I'm going to be in insurance.
No.
But it's an unbelievable industry to be able to build a lifestyle of time and finance to, I mean, literally however you want to do it and however you want to support your family. It's incredible.
Yeah. A lot of people say that these days, work in your passion, whatever you're passionate about, work in your passion. And what how I like to evolve that is what I'm passionate about is really the marketing, the business building. It became my passion in the process, but then, hiring people and recruiting people and helping change their life. So it's each policyholder in the beginning, but then it becomes each agent that I can help, each employee that I can help. That becomes the passion. And so you can, don't think of insurance as like, oh, I'm passionate about insurance, because that would, if I thought someone was passionate about insurance, and I've met a few of them, I think they're crazy. Most of them are like actuaries or something.
Right.
For me, it was more passionate about the process and putting one foot in front of the other. And I don't think, it was probably 4 or 5 years before I really realized what kind of valuations were placed on businesses in those processes. So in the beginning, it's just kind of the blind, faith that, my goal is to sell more policies, and then I'm going to use marketing to get in front of more people. And then when I fill up my time and I can't sell anymore, now I need more agents.
Yeah. Then
I have to start recruiting and training agents to come up with a process for that. So it's just looking at the real rubber meets the road with just putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just sell as much as you can. Then
Yeah.
it's market so that you can reduce the amount of prospecting time.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the point where I'm writing policies all day. I remember I was probably 2 years in, a little less than 2 years in, and I had really gotten good at Facebook ads, and I had not hired any agents yet or any employees at all, but I wrote 72 policies in 1 week.
Let's go, dude.
I thought, okay, I don't feel like I could do any more than I'm doing right now. I have to get more agents.
Yeah.
And now I tell agents I don't recommend writing that many policies in 1 week. It's really like a high goal for us would be, 40, 45, 50. Those are like high weeks in the middle of open enrollment. Every now and then we'll have a guy that crushes it, does 70 or 80, and that's great. But conceptually, it's too much. So if you get to the point where you're writing, 20 or 30 policies in a week, really, it's probably you have a process that you can begin to replicate with more people.
That's right.
And that's where the value of the business comes in, is your book of business as an insurance agent has renewals and commissions associated with it, and clients and repeat clients. That has a smaller value than a business where it transcends your existence in that business. When you can walk out of the business and that business will continue to grow. So a lot of things they're looking at is what EBITDA have you gotten to, because that's how we're valuing you today, but also what is your growth rate? And if your growth rate is solid and they believe that the business is not super key man dependent on you, i.e. if you left or if something happened to you, they could still keep that business growing or at least sustaining for some time, then it's going to be valued at multiple years worth of earnings.
Yeah.
And when you sell a business, it becomes long-term capital gains. So now I'm getting taxed at half what I would have if I just waited that time out and made that money.
Dude, there's so much to unpack right there, right? So obviously, and you obviously want to grow as fast as possible in any business. That's the goal, right? But at the same time, there's a customer experience that you have to balance and make sure that the customer's still getting that same experience. That's probably the hardest thing to do. And a lot of the times when I go work and help other business owners scale, that's the first thing is like a lot of times they've created this amazing culture, but like it's it's a family dynamic that's almost too close because like I like literally had a conversation with the company I'm working with right now last week, and the owner of the company is an amazing leader, amazing, and it's a great family culture, except I'm like, dude, you're already at capacity with your time, so like you can't be this to anybody else, which means you're at until we can change your model up a little bit, you can't grow any more than where you're at right now. She's like, I know, that's why you're here. I'm like, cool. So you have to be open to the fact that like we have to create other people that can give what you're giving and be who you are to those people to other folks, right?
Yeah. I think I can't remember the quote that I heard. It was not too long ago. I think it's a John Maxwell thing. Is that you measure your leadership ability by your ability to cultivate other leaders. There's only so many people that I can lead with my time, but if I can create leaders, then I'm boundless. Like now I can go out and just create the leaders that then create more people that could eventually be leaders, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm in that mode right now. Where we've created some leadership. But I want to continue to create those leaders because that's how that company continues to grow. And it's fun, because if you really want to change somebody's life, taking your average Joe person who's just never been given a shot or doesn't even understand that a shot exists for them, and turning them into a leader, making, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times what they ever expected to make in their life. Again, it's not, money is great, but it's not always about money. Sometimes, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So like same thing with incomes. You might have somebody that's looking at 70 million is a great number, but I'll have people that I get to making 150, 200,000 and it's revolutionary for their family. Come on. So
absolutely, man. It's like one of the things that I loved about the insurance space was, and the space that we're in 2 different parts of the industry, right? You're especially is Medicare, 65 and older, right? And we were 64 and under. Mm-hmm. Okay, so honestly, you were, had I known you back then, you would have been probably one of our greatest referral sources to help each other out, right?
Yeah.
That's some of our best ones were financial planners and Medicare agents, right? So, but what I loved about the insurance space is I guess coming from the nightclub and restaurant industry, that's where the best promoters, in my opinion, are, at least on a smaller scale. Like Nashville used to be a town where you couldn't just open the doors based on your location and be packed 7 days a week. You had to hire creative people and hire promoters and have the best promotions going on to get people to come into your establishment. There was more choices than there were people, right? So when I got into the insurance space, because of all the rules and regulations, it was very like nobody was real creative. You know what I mean? And we started doing a lot of stuff on social, and I want to say, recognize the amazing folks at U.S. Health Group that actually, like, when they figured out what I was doing, it wasn't anything illegal, but they were like, "Hey, man, like you're on social media. I don't know if you can do that." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Right? Well, we don't know how to police that or make sure it's compliant and so on and so forth because it's a very highly regulated. They gave me so much leeway to like figure stuff out. They were amazing to work with. Okay. And I'm so grateful to them for doing that. But at the end of the day, what we figured out is Andy Elliott talks about, he said this in online multiple times, like, I don't really know a lot about my car or even like solar. I just need to know that it works. And I need to know just enough about it to know why it works, not the intricate details, but to have enough confidence that it works. And basically when it comes to insurance is a lot of the agents that you see marketing will go on there and basically try to put on an insurance class. Yeah. It's boring. And I don't want to know all that. I just want to know, I've got my card. How do I use it? And how do I know that everything got taken care of on the back end and I paid the right amount of money?
Yeah.
And it paid the right amount of money too. So at the end of the day, we just dialed that down to the customer experience, and that's all we marketed was another win for the customer who's next. That was it. That's how we simplified it in a way where it was like no compliance, no unneeded education, just another win for the client who's next.
Yeah.
Right. And that's literally all we did for when we were knee deep in it. And that was our main thing for years and years and years was that. And that's literally how I recruited too, is like, hey, it's you win for the customer, you get paid really good. And if you do that a lot, you get paid really good a lot. It's that simple, right? So talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned the word marketing, and obviously you know what you're doing because you've got the numbers to back it up, right? So talk to me about how you guys market to, because a lot of the Medicare people we were working with, like you not only had to deal with the person that was buying the policy, but you had to help deal with their kids too, that are my age, making sure their parents ain't getting taken advantage of or whatnot, right? So how do you guys market in the Medicare space effectively?
Yeah, so there's always targeting as part of it. You know, people are turning 65, so that gives us a good age demo to target. But a big part of it for me early on was looking for people that I could learn marketing from, because coming out of the Marine Corps, I didn't know anything about marketing, right? And so I was listening to guys like Dan Kennedy, Magnetic Marketing, Russell Brunson, Dan Henry, and these were all, none of them were insurance guys, because like we were talking before, the insurance industry was not historically full of good marketers. It was full of KPI data driven lead, and most leads suck. They're just an excuse to call a number, and it's not necessarily somebody that actually wants your help on the other end.
Right.
So we wanted to create higher quality, higher intent, where when you get on the phone with them, there's a trust factor there, which is right along the lines of what you're talking about. When you're celebrating the win and the experience, and that person responds to that, they're on the other end of that line thinking, you know what, I don't care what the product is or how it works, as long as I know that when I need it, it's there and I can go to the doctors that I want to go to, and that sort of thing. And so that was the messaging. So we've used direct mail, we've used Facebook, we've even used broadcast television, OTT television, like YouTube TV and that kind of stuff. So we've used all of it, but honestly, Facebook is so good. Having a full on, a full marketing approach of having your Google Maps listing set up and having your website and all that is great. Having some of the old school marketing out there, traditional media, et cetera. But paid Facebook ads, especially for that senior demographic, just were solid. And we got into that when everyone else was telling us, people on Medicare aren't on Facebook. And I knew that was not true. I saw
their kids may not be, but they are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My dad just had a birthday not long ago, and he still goes in and replies to every single happy birthday shout out on Facebook with a thank you and so on and so forth. It takes him hours to do that, hundreds of times.
That's hilarious.
But they're all there. They are and they might not have been there that long. But they're not on Instagram. They're not on X.
Right.
Definitely not on TikTok, probably.
Yeah.
But you're right. The majority of them are on Facebook.
The weird thing is, I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk the other day, and he was talking about, so they're not on Instagram much. They're not on X much. They're a little bit, just because of Elon's probably pulled some of the conservative crowd over there. Maybe you could advertise to Truth Social. Get some, but there are a lot of them on TikTok.
Okay.
And so it's more on Facebook, but when you start looking at social or any media, I think, and this is what Gary talks about, is looking for underpriced attention. And so there is actually a lot of underpriced attention in that senior market on TikTok, because people think of TikTok as younger, but the older crowd has gotten there. And it's kind of like Facebook 10 years ago, when people were telling me 10 years ago they're not on Facebook, but they are on TikTok. Now, I'm not telling you we advertise on TikTok. I'm just telling people that if you're going to go try something, and some of the greatest wins are getting there before anybody else got there.
That's right.
And TikTok, I do think has a potential, gold mine or honey hole.
I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends, and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more.
One of the things that I get asked to speak on the most is podcasting, digital content, social media applications, so on and so forth, right? So, and one of the most common things that people will say to me when I like to do a lot of Q&A, like this is where I'm in my sweet spot,
Yeah.
well, I don't, I'll ask them like straight up, like we call them the big six. If you include Threads or Truth Social, there's more, but the big six, TikTok, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and what am I forgetting here? Instagram. Yep. Instagram. Those are the big six, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, do you have all six? No, I don't like X.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what you like. Do your customers like it?
Yeah.
Are the people that should be your customers?
It doesn't mean you need 100,000 followers on every platform, but you got to have a presence on them. And I agree completely.
Not to mention, it's like, all right, so if you're not on X, it's almost like credibility wise, if you don't have a website, they're gonna be like, is that company real?
Yeah.
Like, so why would you not have
Yeah.
all 6 of those? And again, it's not about you. It's about what you do for others. And if others like X, it don't matter if you like it or not. They can't work with you if they don't know you're there, and you can't work with them if you don't know they're there.
Right. And there's some, and I'm a classic example of this. When I'm checking somebody out, I'll go to multiple platforms sometimes and check them out. So yeah, I think, X would probably be one that I do like the least, but we can't ignore the fact that there's a massive power in there. There is a huge group of people on X. Also, Google and Bing often summarize X posts. So like, like right now, if you pull me up, they're summarizing my Instagram and my YouTube. But if you pull up other people, I see X very commonly being done that way. So even in search, your socials are valuable. And it doesn't mean I have to post on every one of them every day. It's not about that necessarily. In the beginning, it's about creating the profiles. I've leaned into Facebook and YouTube. That's where we've done the best in the consumer and the agent market. But on the Instagram side, that's where we want to, have that presence. And the cool thing about Instagram and Facebook is they communicate with one another.
Yeah, so they collaborate together.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically, if you wanted those two, just post things on Instagram. They'll go to Facebook, and then boom, you killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
Absolutely, absolutely, folks. We're hanging with Justin Brock, the founder and CEO of Bobby Brock Insurance, well sought out thought leader, veteran of our United States Armed Forces, and founder of Medicare Con. Folks, check him out at justinbrock.com, on Instagram, Facebook, and X at the Justin Brock, and on YouTube at Justin Brock, right? So, dude, again, congratulations on freaking everything you've done. It's absolutely incredible, right? So let's move forward just a little bit, all right? And let's talk. So we've got agents listening to this sucker, but we've also got people that like just basically, I know my audience, and some of them, everything we're talking about today is very, very relatable and applicable to what they're going through in life, right? So let's talk to both sides today, right? So we could spend all day talking about the agent, okay? Let's feed them, but let's also feed those customers a little bit, right? So let's, as an agent, let's just say like the top few things, top 3, whatever, top 3 most important things from an agent perspective, but whether you're just getting started or not where you want to be yet, what would you say top 3 things to focus on from an agent perspective in the Medicare space?
Yeah, so early on, I was told by some people, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And while that's true, you can run a marathon like a Kenyan, okay? We can run it fast. So there's this balance between scaling with speed, details, delays, scaling with speed, and doing the right thing for every customer and training the right way and making sure that you're holding yourself to a high standard. I think Grant Cardone says overpromise and overdeliver. And I think that is the number one thing for me. It's, hey, if I want to do something big, I need to go hard and fast at the number of contacts I'm making, at the rate at which I try new things, and the persistency that I follow through with trying those things to the point to actually see them come to fruition, not like shiny object going from thing to thing. But I also need to make sure that as I'm doing things quickly, I'm maintaining a high level of quality.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think, is right along with that first premise is making sure that as you're doing things, you're documenting processes. If you're ever aiming towards what we're talking about earlier, the acquisition side, having processes and a path that you're, a trail that you're blazing that someone else could come through later on and say, this is how Justin did this, or this is how so-and-so within Justin's organization did this, is very, very important. And then also, I do think as number 3, think about, that shiny object syndrome concept. Don't get shiny object syndrome and take your eyes off the prize. If you started Medicare, or if you started in life insurance, or if you're in under 65 health, or if you're in P&C, all of those verticals you can make money in. If somebody tells you, oh, you need to try annuities, me and a friend of mine that are in the Medicare world, and we're constantly talking about people building businesses, he texts me a lot of funny things we hear from agents. So one the other day says, well, I stopped doing Medicare and I started doing annuities because I sold a couple of annuities and the commission was really big, and so I'm just going to focus on that. And then later on in the same text thread, he says, I'm having trouble scaling though, I need capital, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, we hear this, and then these guys are making really in correlation to what we're making not much, but they're rolling their eyes at small commission products based on a replicatable process. So I'm not saying don't sell annuities. I'm just saying whatever your path is, know what the metrics are. So when you can take a combination of KPIs and data, but then also pair it with quality marketing, like we were talking about earlier, where you're actually producing content, you're using, whether it's local or digital or both, a combination of both, and putting that together, you can build a great business in any of those verticals, in any financial services vertical.
I want to let's hang there for a minute. All right. So, a lot of the agents listen to this would say, dude, I want to do what he did. All right. So there's multiple skill sets to get really, really good at. All right. So one of the most common misconceptions of people that work with our creative agency here, all right, is, let's just say like most small business owners, especially in the insurance space, they don't have an adequate marketing budget. All right. So, what do you like? It's like on the big scheme of things. So let's say, and you probably are in the top 2, 3, if not top 1% of income nationwide. All right. So that means for you, you've done something that the other 97 or 98 or 99% have not. You're better at something that the other 97, 98 or 99% are not as good at as you to accomplish what you've accomplished, right? So at the end of the day, like people will come in to the agency and they'll spend, let's just say they're spending $5,000 a month. All right, $60,000 a year on some digital content. And first of all, if they hadn't done it before, it takes a little while to get good at being good out on camera. If you haven't dialed in all the specifics of your personal brand, the brand of your company, how you position yourself in the market, how you deliver that, all those things, right? But it's like, dude, if all you had to do was spend $60,000 with the Hit Lab to make millions and millions of dollars, then why would anybody advertise on the Super Bowl? Like, right. Why would they do all these other big things that cost a lot more money? And why would they spend so much? Right? So there's a lot of there's a big gap in people understanding what it is that like the biggest and the best are doing. And I'll just use sports for an example. So I was fortunate enough to play at the professional levels for a while. Dude, the gap between college and pro is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Right? In knowledge, in how things are done. Like it's a totally different game. And it's based on the amount of skills that you've acquired to get to that level. Right? So like at the end of the day, when these people come here, it's like, what do you actually know about marketing? They don't know a lot. So like, wouldn't you think that understanding that, like developing that skill set would be valuable for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a progressive change. So when I first started in insurance, I was buying leads, going door to door in the field, knocking on doors with a lead card in hand. And I did that long enough to know that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I could make it work,
right.
But I was basically just replacing my military income, which wasn't solid.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you, brother. And so when I started putting out content and when I started, using social media to go after consumers, I was listening to podcasts, staying up till 2 a.m, doing everything I could. And I actually cashed out. I had a thrift savings plan with the military. I had $26,000 in it. So I cashed it out. They told me, you're going to pay a penalty. You're going to pay all this. And I was like, well, got to do it. So I had that. It was my basis for starting with Facebook ads. At the time, I probably got a decent return, but I was still trying some things and figuring some stuff out. So there was some money lost on that front too.
Yeah.
But it's not like I just stayed spending $26,000. When it worked, I came back and doubled down. And the cool thing about insurance is in the insurance industry, there's this thing with a lot of products, with most products called an advance. And every time you write a policy, you're getting a loan based on the value of that policy.
That advance commission, yeah.
That advance commission. So your advance commissions, instead of living off of 100% of that as you're scaling, when you can learn how to, through ferocious and tenacious activity and coupled with marketing and a healthy appetite for learning how to do this stuff, go and write business, you're getting a loan now. Yes, I have to have a certain amount of that to pay what I did back and live off of. But if I can take a portion of that and then roll it back into the next thing.
Yeah. Isn't that why you take out a loan in business, is to invest?
That's right.
A loan comes from an investor usually. And it's it's a great thing that insurance companies can do that they're financially equipped to be able to say, hey, agent, let me give you 6, 7, or 8 months of commission that you haven't earned yet up front. And a good agent's going to take that, live off what they need to live off of, and invest the rest back. I mean, cash. It's literal cash flow. Like, you know what I mean? So,
and it's like extremely low interest. Some carriers are no interest, but like a lot of times you're talking about 1% interest, 2% interest on these. So it's like the best debt you can get, and it's attached to policies that you wrote, and only you know the quality of the business you're putting on the books, right? So I think a lot of people, and I'm not saying that there aren't times where I've taken out loans as well to scale faster.
You'd be crazy not to.
When you know something's working.
Yeah.
Like there's no better investment than what I already know I can do, right? So if I take that loan and scale faster, that's great. But in the beginning, every policy you write, there's this little tiny interest loan attached to it. So quit living off of the 9-month advance, live off 3 months of it, and then that's 6. You're doubling down. The people that I know that scale, they're not. I mean, I know a guy, and I talk about him a lot. He's a friend of mine, and we helped him get started in the Medicare space. He's 27, 28 years old. Been in it for about 4 or 5 years now. Last year he made $7.5 million. This year they'll gross $15 million. But his agency, he's still driving an old Camry, living in a 1-bedroom apartment because he keeps reinvesting back into the business. Now, as soon as he wanted to stop, he would net $4, $5, $6 million the first year probably, because he's built up tons of residual, commissions and a great process. But he just tries to spend every bit of it, and even spending every bit of it, he still netted I think $1 million last year at 27 years old. But the difference is, like, he just spends everything he can back on the business, both time and money.
Well, it takes discipline, but that discipline has to be aimed at something, right? So again, if you want to eat great, that's fantastic. But like, what are you eating great for? Like, what's the purpose of it? How do you know it's to be a certain health? Well, define that clearly and specifically. It's like weight loss or anything else. So,
do you want to take your payday when you get to $200,000 in income, or do you want to take your payday when you get to sell a business for $70 million? Like, when's the payday? Like,
absolutely.
What are you really after? And it depends. And it's a question that everybody can answer for themselves, because that's okay. If it's 200,000, if it's 150,000, that's okay. But just don't be like, I don't understand how he got there when you're spending all your money at 150,000.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of those agents too will come in and work on it for 3 months, be like, man, you guys are all full of it. This is a crock, what a scam, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you've been here 90 days. Like I played baseball for 2 decades before I ever got paid to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Literally. And like, think about it. Think about the people you see on that you go to their concert and whatnot. Well, how long were they playing for free or playing for peanuts before they got their record deal and so on and so forth? You've been doing it 90 days. How good are you at it? Honestly.
Yeah. It's funny. It was, I listened to all these influencers back in the day, and Russell Brunson and Gary Vaynerchuk both would say, there was one episode of some podcast I think Gary Vee did where he was telling a guy, hey, keep making those T-shirts while you're working a job and sending them to influencers for free. Do that for about 6 or 7 years. Just keep doing it all the time, and then see what it turns into. And it's kind of this madness concept of like doing something with no real reward for that amount of time.
Yeah.
But I would listen to what he was saying, and I started putting content out for agents when I was really only making money on consumers. And I was putting content out to agents, and we created a Facebook group in 2018. And I didn't know, I had nothing to sell agents. I had no desire to recruit them. All I was doing was putting out content, documenting what we were doing. If you look at that content, it wasn't this quality. It was shit. If you go back to my YouTube channel, the first videos, you'll see some of it.
Mine was bad too in the beginning. You got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere.
That's right.
So,
and we'll look at this in 2 or 3 years from now and say, this is shit.
Yeah, it's all, you're always increasing, moving the goalpost. But, when I started putting that content, I had no idea what it was going to turn into. Now we have multiple classes a year where 40 agency owners come to Tupelo, Mississippi, paying $5,000 a seat, listening to us. And then at the end of it, they ask to move contracts to us. But we did that through years of putting that content out and starting our conferences and things that, we really didn't like. You kind of have to be insane to do it. Because you're putting out all that content with no proof that it's going to pay off. You just believe it will. And you know that because this is the game you play.
The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the Hit Lab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more.
When I met Bradley in 2020, he was doing a lot on social media that I'm just looking at it. I'm like, man, like I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know that that's good. It worked on me. It's obviously worked on millions of other people. I need to figure this out and start working on this. And basically what it came down to, he said, Hyder, if you will make a post a day, every day minimum on all these platforms for 3 to 4 years without stopping, just one day you're going to wake up and things are just going to be different. All right. It was about 3.5 years. And that's exactly what happened. It went from like, gosh, man, we're talking some legit, real money to film all this, cut it all up and edit it and then get it posted and so on and so forth. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per month, $8,000 to $10,000 a month every month. All right. Just marketing costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
now
for years, it's like it's basically in the drain.
It felt like it, yet our business was growing, but we never really, we just knew it was the right thing to do. But then all of a sudden we woke up one day and then we were in attraction. Yeah. Okay. All of a sudden people were, I think that what people believe, they first had to trust, and what they trust, they first had to hear many, 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 many times.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what you're doing. So, but now when we talk about it, that 3 to 4 years, can you expedite that process? Yeah. Instead of doing 1 a day, you could do 5.
Yeah.
So what we figured it out is like, when we came to this, I think I had posted like 6,000 times on Instagram at that point in time. Right. So over the space of this long, well, I could have condensed that if I'd have just done more in the beginning instead of 1 a day. If I'd have done 5 a day or 4 a day or 3 a day, it would, technically would have done it that much faster. Yeah. You know what I mean? So anything can be done if you, if you spend more time on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, folks, we're hanging out with Justin Brock, the founder CEO of the Bobby Brock Insurance Agency. Which, by the way, your name's Justin, not Bobby.
That's right.
Well, all right, so I got to know about that, dude.
I get called Bobby all the time. So, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I decided I want to go into insurance because I saw my dad as an individual agent. He started working with American General Life as a captive agent in the early 90s really the mid 90s when I was a kid. Saw him go from, 25,000 the first year up to around the time I got out of the Marine Corps, probably, I guess this was, 15, 20 years later. Mm-hmm. But he had gotten to where he was making, $250,000 a year. And I saw that lifestyle change. And I come out of the Marine Corps making, 50, 60,000. And I was thinking, really, at first, just how can I replace 60,000 a year so I can make sure I can feed my family? That was baseline, like survival, right? I had 2 little baby kids.
How old are your kids now?
They're now 14 and 12.
14, 12. All right.
Yeah.
You're almost out of the woods, baby.
I know. Well, they're getting pretty easy. They can have some drama, but they're pretty easy at this point. But when all that was going on, my dad, I got in and I said, what should I sell? And he says, you should sell Medicare. So I just went in and started selling Medicare. And when we started to build it into a team and I started the marketing and we started having that, I said, for a little while, I actually was trying to name it something else, like Medicare Gurus, this other stuff. And eventually I was like, I'm just going to name it something with the name Bobby Brock Insurance. So that's what we ran with. And I just some people would come along and they said, why not Justin Brock Insurance? And I said, Bobby Brock, first of all, sounds kind of like Coca-Cola to me. It kind of has a ring to it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking more about my local agency and that name. And then he had also served
BBI,
clients for 20 years in that area in their house, door to door. So I thought, let's build it on top of that name and give that, credence to him because that's why I got into that business.
Subconsciously, you created a standard because you're not going to let something with your dad's name fail.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So that's brilliant in the fact that you did that. You know what I mean? You're not going to let something with your dad's name on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel like it's the same way now, like even with us partnering and selling the business, I got kind of reinvigorated or reignited based on the idea that now someone else is looking at the performance of the business. I was always good at pushing myself, but when there's other people's names, other people's money involved, I don't want to be the person that's the low performer that they've worked with. I want to be the top performer that they've worked with. So something about that, This year I feel like I've worked harder than ever, not because the private equity's pushed me to, but I feel this innate desire to be like, I want to be the best investment they've ever made. You know,
God, that's good. All right, let's talk to those Medicare customers a little bit. All right, so you hear a lot of there's so many ads around Medicare on TV, especially around open enrollment. There's so many products from so many carriers, and like when I learned what I learned about the health insurance space for the 64 and under, I was like, dude, they should teach that in school. Like that's a very valuable piece of knowledge that like you got to understand. Okay. And it's, most folks will just shop on price and price alone. Right. And they don't know anything about the agent they bought from, how long they've been in business, how many customers they've helped, and so on and so forth. A lot of times. And I'm always amazed because like, you have to earn my trust now. But like the generation before me, if it was on TV, if it came from the government or it came from their doctor, they trusted it no matter what. It might have been their first visit at the doctor's office, whatever that person said, they believed it. Now I'm like, I question everything. Yeah. Okay.
Now the doctor may have a little bit of trust still, but the TV and the government have zero trust with most people.
But the 65 and up crowd, there's those old habits die hard.
Yeah, they do. Right.
So, and they're probably the ones that get taken advantage of the most. I met a family when I was in, where were we at this past week? Oh, in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio. And I literally met a couple that had done great for themselves and got hung. They lost pretty much everything in that scam that was going on with the Publishers Clearinghouse thing that was going around, and like literally like the dude showed me. He was like, look, I got one debit card because all my assets and everything's frozen because of this fraud. He's like, and I'm out $20,000, I know. And that's devastating to folks that age, right? So they trust folks, right? So let's talk about how should they qualify before they buy? How should they qualify the person they're talking to before they buy from them?
Yeah. It would be nice if we could get across to them how someone that's maybe a little younger than them fields out the people they do business with. Because I think, like we were talking about looking up socials earlier. There's the burden of proof that you're not a scam artist to me is really quickly going and saying, okay, I'll give you a really good example. The other day I get a call from a guy, clearly an American guy, which normally these scams are Middle Eastern. That's the right away a telltale sign, like they're coming out of the Middle East from India or Pakistan or something like that. But now you're getting Americans that are doing it. Clearly American guy, right? Calls me, tells me that there's a warrant out for my arrest because I had missed jury duty. And it was a more convincing call than I'd normally gotten. Yeah. Because he started off with, without the warrant part, he was just saying, well, you missed jury duty. So Judge so-and-so from Lee County, which is the county I live in, has put a warrant out, but I think we can get this scratched and taken care of. Like, he was just real nice. And it was like, well, maybe I did have jury duty. And then he said, I signed a jury warrant or something like that. And I said, no. I know good and damn well I didn't sign anything. And then he got into starting to request money. But the whole while he's talking, I'm just verifying online, like Googling the name he's saying. Nothing comes up in Lee County. He was like a lieutenant, he said. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'd be able to find this person. Yeah. But I don't think, I hate to say like words like the elderly, but that community, the older they get, the less they
experience.
They're not good at quickly Googling that stuff and looking that stuff up the way we would be. Some of these scams are like wild, where they'll say stuff like, okay, I need you to go to Target and buy, 17 $50 gift cards and then read me off the barcodes. But people do it. Yeah. I don't understand it. But what I would say on the Medicare side, because that is certainly a point of contention where I'm sure scam artists are aiming. We've seen a little bit of it, but I know that it'll probably increase and be more and more of it. What I would say is go and look and find multiple profiles for that person. Maybe and be proactive about Medicare. Don't respond automatically to something that's on TV. If just because something in the mail says it's from the government doesn't mean it truly is. Make sure that you're, if you can operate on referrals, who did so-and-so use? Now, here's the problem they do. This is something they do, unfortunately, though, is instead of saying, what plan did you get? because they'll say, Judy, what plan did you get? And then she'll say, and this is no offense to any carrier, but she might say, the Humana plan. Well, then she just calls Humana and gets a Humana plan.
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean that's the best thing for her, right? Maybe say, get 3 different referrals from 3 different people. Same way when you're getting a contractor, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting a contractor. I want to get 3 quotes.
So use common practices in other places of life.
I would say so,
Yeah.
I mean, and, obviously it's easy to just say, just call our office and we'll do what's right.
Let's just stay there.
Yeah, just stay there. You can definitely call, Bobby Brock Insurance. We'd love to help people. But if you're going to, shop around, then shop through referrals, and be careful with some of the things that pop up in Google AdWords. I'd say another little trick though is when you go to Google an insurance agency, look for the actual maps listings of local agencies with 5-star reviews or 4.5 and 4.9 and multiple reviews. Don't do the ads. If it's popping up as a paid search, those are oftentimes going to scam artists, unfortunately.
It's again, those just because they're on the TV screen in front of them, they assume that it's very official, and especially if it's got Joe Namath talking about it, right, or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, and it's great, but like, every person is 100% unique. All right, they've got they've got 65 plus years of habits with their food and their diet and their physical regimens and everything else, and how hard they were worked, whether it's blue collar or whatever else like that, and like they have needs that are specific. You know what I mean? And like, so it's a process. My parents are old enough to go through it. When we honestly, it was the first person that we hooked them up, my mom and dad with at the time, 10 years ago when they turned 65, was not an agent they were about where we were. They were new to the field. They didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't do it purposely, but they put them in a bad spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that happens a lot in the agent world that, there's these large call centers that recruit in so many agents. It's the same way in the life where every world where they'll maybe get in and it's like, this is the information you get. And so a lot of times these agents will be told, these products are great for everybody. And then they're just kind of, shoving a square peg into a round hole over and over and over again. Knowing the complete picture is ideal,
The history of the company or the agency, right?
I would say, yeah. And the difference between, with Medicare, it's private Medicare or governmental Medicare. Is that one of the biggest difference,
in school, which one's better, private or public?
Yeah. So exactly. Right. So when you look at both options and you understand that both have their place, but being able to do both, like, so same thing with you guys in under 65 world, you have ACA or Obamacare, and then you have private options, right? Private PPO options, different types of plans. And it's all based on, their income, their expectation of the coverage, their desire to go, to doctors they choose versus being willing to stay in a network, subsidy they might qualify for, that kind of stuff. So there's all these, both sides of that coin. It's the same way with Medicare. It's like, which one is best? And so I just think, getting with someone who's going to give you both options, anybody that's telling you only this one or only that one. Yeah. That's not going to be great advice most of the time.
And if it comes from the government is usually, they've made something with a specific person in mind. And it's usually somebody that is struggling somewhere financially or with something else, whatever else. So like, the Affordable Care Act for 65 and under came about because there were some folks that were uninsurable, whether they waited too long to get insurance before they became uninsurable, or maybe they were just born with something that made them not insurable, right? Yeah. And you're talking about a small fraction of the folks. So when you're talking to somebody when we're talking to a customer or a potential customer, it's like, are you financially challenged where you need help from the government to purchase this? Has something happened to you where you're no longer qualified? You know what I mean? Like, so, but if the answer is to no to either one of those questions, then that product wasn't made for you. Yeah. Right. So it's just like if you're a vegetarian, the steak commercial is not going to have a lot of effect on you. You know what I mean? You're probably not the customer for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the ACA or the Obamacare plans, it's definitely the either sick or poverty people at a certain federal poverty level. That it makes sense for. Most other people that could qualify for something else should probably consider other options so that they can make sure they're going to doctors they want to go to. I have not run into an Obamacare plan that didn't have an HMO or an EPO, which is kind of like an HMO that wanted to sound like it wasn't an HMO.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Access. The way we used to, coming from the nightclub world, and everybody knows about Broadway in Nashville. My wife and I's book of business, we were licensed in 33 states, but that was mostly just so we could be associated with those agencies. Like, we have a huge book of business, and I would say 99% of our personal clients are within probably 30 to 40 miles of where we sit from right here. Like we're today, like we just had a big influence on the local market, right? So, I mean, dude, it's like, so we would use the Broadway analogy, and it's like, hey man, I got this card here. All right, it's free admission everywhere, okay, and all drinks are only $1, right? And all you gotta do is buy this card. And you get, and that's what you get. And everyone's like, I was like, would you buy it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, what if I told you only worked in one of those honky tonks?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't like that honky tonk. Doesn't matter. It's the only place it works.
Yeah.
And access is everything, because when we're having those conversations with those folks about like, hey man, you want a nationwide network? What happens like accidents? I'm super healthy though, Nick. I know accidents happen to healthy people. What if they happen when you're at Disney with your family, and now your network is only in Nashville? When they're in the back, when they've got you in the back of the ambulance and something bad happened and you're bleeding out, you're not going to wake up and be like, hey man, hold on, I need you to take me to this hospital. They're going to take you to the closest one. You know what I mean? And if you're out of network and you don't have coverage out of network, you're bankrupt probably when you walk out, or something bad.
Yeah, you're up shit creek.
That's right. Without a paddle, right?
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com.
Again, that card in your wallet, it's a tool. Do you know how to use it? Do you know how to use it? And so the educational piece is so important. So when you're buying from those agents, first of all, how long have they been in business? How many clients have they helped? Are they traceable online at all? Anything about them? Any reviews, testimonials, or whatnot? Are they associated with somebody like you that's been in business and killing it for over a decade?
Yeah.
Just do some due diligence.
Success leaves clues, man. And when you have an agency that, has, high level reviews, or has a good presence, or you're getting referrals from, and has been around for a while and stood the test of time at scale, it's very difficult for them to do that and having been scamming people or having a poor service, right?
Well, I'll tell you why you're here, because I didn't know you before we agreed to do this episode, right? I knew of you, but I didn't know you. And he's the real deal, folks. Justin, you are as an agent, you have amassed and sold the largest book of business of anybody I've ever met. You got to be good at what you're doing. The track record is there. You know what I mean? So, it's a big deal. Congratulations. And again, then you got you served in the, what was it, in the military, in the Marines?
Marine Corps. Yes,
Marine Corps. So, that's the best of the best.
Well, we like to think so.
Anybody that would argue that is going to lose.
Yeah. No, when I joined the Marine Corps, man, it just like everybody else, it's the one that had the appeal to what I was trying to do. Go in, you wanted that fundamental physical and mental change. And you wanted the best uniform, and they do have a good uniform. So.
They do. Well, you're an amazing human being. Just straight up, dude. You're an amazing human being.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. So, all right, I want to talk a little bit about Medicare Con. All right, and then we'll kind of finish up with just being in the armed forces, being in the Marines. There's a lot going on in our world today, and so just any advice that you would have for the folks out there about, because I have to turn a lot of that stuff off. It's nothing but bad news. There's no good news.
Man, I need to stay plugged into politics a little bit, just because I do believe there is an importance to our, I think these elections are important, but I also struggle with that because, like you said, turning it all, like it can create such a negativity in you because you look at it and you just think, why in the hell is some of this shit happening?
It's turned into a soap opera. When I was a kid, I saw the president on TV a few times a year. Yeah. Now you see him.
Oh, the candidates are like, I definitely have my persuasions. I would consider. I feel moderate, But I'm sure a lot of people would think I'm extreme on one side or the other, because that's just the polarizing effect of hyper political environment. And the world needs to calm down and have bipartisanship again. But I just don't. I think we're several years away from that right now.
I agree. And the one thing that I've always kind of stayed grounded with is my granddad used to say, "Nick, shit rolls downstream," right? Well, we're all downstream from the White House.
Yeah.
So, regardless of who gets in, there's some folks that because they like the person so little that they hope they do bad. And that's literally like self-inflicting bad wishes upon yourself.
Yeah.
Like whether I voted for them or not, if they do a great job, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
It's like they've turned it into a team sport. And, it's like, where we're from in Tupelo, it's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, right? Those are the rivals. And you have the typical Mississippi. I'm sure I'll find a Mississippi State fan will hear this, but the typical Mississippi State fan where we're at just like counts it as a win that Ole Miss does bad.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's team sports. It's a game. But when it's the country, it's the country is the team, not Democrats or Republicans, right? And so if I think a Democrat's in office I want them to do poorly, or Republicans in office I want to do poorly, that's definitely not good. And I will say when you understand Medicare, you understand health insurance, you understand some of the geopolitical stuff just from me doing operations and exercises relative to the Middle East and North Korea, and then you say you understand some of these things, and then you see them manipulate the information and use it because most people don't understand those concepts. It's either they truly don't understand it, or they're just trying to trick people, and I believe it's the latter. I think they're just trying to trick people, and that's the part of it that I just can't stand, is that when you blatantly see them manipulate the populace to vote a certain way. I don't know how you get rid of that. But, until it cools down, I think we're just going to keep festering. Now, what I will say is I don't think the precipice, the turning point of just the craziness, everybody always, it seems like every decade, it's like, well, now we're at the precipice, the debt can't go any higher, or this can't happen. And then we just keep reaching new heights. I do think that it could be, probably carted along longer than people think. I'm not a doomsdayer. But at some point, we got to rein it in a little bit. At least stop it from getting so much worse all the time.
Absolutely. Well, that's perfectly said, man. And thank you for that. So, all right, dude, Medicare Con. All right. I've been knowing about that for a minute. Didn't know the dude behind it until now. Right. So this is your fifth one is coming up in April of 2025. All right. So 4 are in the books. All right. You founded that sucker. First of all, why did you do that? And then I want people to know the story of that, because to put on an event like that, it's a lot of risk involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skin in the game.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little bit about risk of the first one. So the first one was going to be called the Medicare Gurus Mastermind, and it was made to be a smaller event. We'd sold like 150 tickets, and it was scheduled for April 2020, which was a great time to do nothing but sit in your house. And so, February, March 2020, we had to call it and move the date. We actually had to move that date twice, because at first I was a naysayer. I was COVID. That's not real. Well, I still may be a naysayer, but it was real enough to shut some shit down.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I had to move that goalpost twice. The first one ended up happening February 2021. And it ended up being 200 people, because by the time it got around, people were wanting to get out and go to events again. So events came back with a vengeance. I think events are bigger now than they were before COVID, just because people got a taste of like not being able to go places.
And they're saturated now too.
That's right. They are. And that's the problem too, is, thankfully we had ours kind of fundamentally there. But like now people are popping up events all the time. And it gets difficult to fill the seats. Right. So we had 200 February 2021.
Is this this is mostly for agents, people in the space, right? It's not as much for customers, or is it?
No, it's all agents.
Okay.
Agent focused content. The first one was 200 agents, very Medicare focused, but it's started getting a lot of Medicare health and life agents.
Okay.
Even though it's called Medicare Con. The second one was about 450 agents in Birmingham.
Let's go.
And that one That one was that was my favorite one. I had a lot of fun that year. The first one was stressful as hell because it was the first time we'd done an event with that many people. The third one was in Vegas, and it was at the MGM. Fourth one was also Vegas MGM. The third one, we hit 1,000 people last year. We had 1,276 check-ins. So, so it's grown, dramatically. Going to Vegas did help us grow the numbers.
Heck yeah.
Next year is Orlando. So we definitely wanted to bring it back to the East Coast. Florida has a high concentration of insurance agents, as I'm sure you're aware. So we definitely wanted to piggyback. The Southeast in general has a great, presence of insurance agents, but going out west allowed us to build an audience in Southern California, Arizona, in the Clark County, Nevada area. Now going down to Florida, we hope to grab more Miami-based, Tampa area agents, Orlando agents. So, but the whole premise of the event is getting together and helping people build their agency. So the concept is, we want new agents, but we really want agents that, hey, they've gotten started, but it's like, okay, I'm selling a little bit of insurance, I'm paying my bills, but what now?
That's right.
That's what we were after is, the people that, we know are going to make it because they have the grit to go and sell. But now they're thinking, how can I get better quality lead flow? How can I market myself? How can I get people to want to work with me? And how can I hire and retain agents and employees? That's what it's focused on. And, next year, I maybe up in that goal to 2,000 next year, but really right now it's 1,500 agents in Orlando.
What's the website?
MedicareCon.com.
There you go.
And we get a healthy amount of negative feedback on that name, but it's done well for us for 4 years. It's like Comic-Con or GrowthCon or WealthCon,
Yeah.
But for some reason you throw Medicare in front of it and they think, but it's agents we're focused on. We're not getting seniors there and trying to con them. It's the Medicare conference. There have been some debate about us changing the name, but it's taken off and people know it. And so we definitely want to get people there so we can learn how to better serve that Medicare community, but also some of those secondary and tertiary markets like financial advising, health insurance, and life insurance.
That's really good, man. MedicareCon.com. I think the URL is just fine, baby. I think it's just fine.
I like it.
And then when will tickets go on sale? Because the best deals are early bird stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, we still have an early bird special running right now through December 31st, and they're on there right now. MedicareCon.com. We've already sold, I think, 380 tickets or something like that. Let's go. So,
and you guys are still announcing lineups and all kinds of stuff, right?
We've announced the first 3 speakers so far, but
my man. That is fantastic, dude. All right, so as we get to the end of this episode here, is there anything that we didn't cover? Any stories or anything else? Like the end is always like I always pass it back. Like, dude, did we catch everything? Did we get it all done? Any stories or anything else you want to talk about?
Man, there's so many things that have happened to us, and I just want to the agents that are listening or business builders, if you work really hard, the harder you work, the luckier you get. If you're in the market and you're trying shit, you're going to have some timing wins. But you're not going to have those timing wins if you're not trying stuff all the time and sticking with it and being persistent. So I've had some great timing with some great stories that I've told out there on our YouTube channel, about, you can look up one is our AT&T retiree story, where we hit a jackpot, about a year in, just getting in front of the right people, working direct mail leads and selling 72 new clients in one room, basically. Having some other stories like that out there. We've had some big success with social media with agents, based on timing, but also we've tried a whole bunch of stuff, that a lot of people don't realize, when they see somebody see a success, they first start seeing Nick and they don't know the entire story of how long you've been out there doing shit before, boom, you're a deal, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way with us, but if you're in it long enough, you're going to find honey holes, but it's looking for that slow, steady progress.
Yeah.
And then compounding those timing wins as well.
I love the insurance space and the fact that, like, if you want to be somebody that goes in and changes the landscape of that industry or disrupts it, so to speak, it's happening all the time from people like you, like me, that started from nothing. Like, one of our common friends is Pete Fournier, dude. That guy's been, he's an innovator in the space. He's doing some great stuff.
Yeah. Trailblazer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we talked on that episode a lot about difference between captive and non-captive, and so on and so forth. And, the route that I went was the captive route, but that was the best route for me. And that was because of the leadership in through U.S. Health Group, and the CEO and president of Troy McQuaig. I mean, that dude literally changed my life. On top of the fact of all the people that had influence, the leadership that I got in, downstream, which was unbelievable. All those folks, I owe them everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll never run away from that. Like that's a real deal.
Pete started captive. My dad started captive. There's no one size. It's all about the opportunity in front of you.
That's right.
And I know with U.S. Health specifically, there's products that U.S. Health has that really don't exist in the market outside of working with U.S. Health. So there's also a unique value opportunity there. So, and on our side, we do both. We're captive and independent broker. Mm-hmm. So, we have them as brokers, but we have a captive model where we hire and have W-2 salaried agents internally, but then we also recruit brokerage agents. So it's funny, sometimes when people say captive, they'll think captive one carrier versus captive broker versus independent broker versus, and so anyway, Pete's done all those as well. He's been in all those fronts. I've been on 2 of those 3, and I can tell you I've seen the success in all of those models.
Dude, well, you guys are beasts, man. And I can't think of anybody else better to listen to from it, whether you're getting into the industry or wanting to grow your spot in the industry, or from a customer's perspective, man, because you guys have seen it all.
Yeah.
At least a version of it. You've seen it all. Like, seriously, when was the last time you saw something you're like, I hadn't seen that before?
It doesn't happen. Nothing relevant, comes up. Well, I say that. I'll tell you a story after this podcast that just happened in our office. I can't even say it. It's so crazy to one of our employees. But, you manage enough people, you see some wild stuff.
The Hitstreak is powered by RAC Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, RAC Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out RAC Financial.
But dude, any final thoughts or anything else to do other than, folks, if you're in the space, not just in Medicare, but health and life, Medicare.com, MedicareCon.com is the place to go, because you guys are going to be talking about if marketing works for Medicare, it's going to work for other stuff and so on and so forth.
And if you can't make that, just follow us on Instagram at the Justin Brock. We put out a lot of content on there, a lot of long form content on YouTube. Would love to see anybody there. Always trying to help people not just in the insurance industry, but definitely in the insurance industry is where our heavy niche focus has been the last decade. And
MedicareCon is also on Instagram and other social platforms, right? At MedicareCon.
Right. At MedicareCon.
Boom. That's it. Dude, I absolutely value this relationship right here. I'm so excited to do some stuff with you guys. I felt the same way about Pete. I was like, man, dude, I'm so glad that you came and that because now, there's so many things that we can do together to help so many people.
Yeah.
You guys are such innovators and forward thinkers. It's a breath of fresh air, but quite frankly, it's the sexy part of the industry. Mm-hmm. Guys that are actually getting out there and doing the same disruption and the same things to innovate and enhance a industry. You guys are doing that in the insurance space, and it's freaking awesome, man.
Yeah. It's a tired industry. It's a lot of old thinking, and so I don't say it's not. It is hard to change.
Yeah.
But in this industry, sometimes if you could just look to what, let's say, the standard marketing industry's done, or real estate or something like that, you can see what the clue is on how to change this one, and just have to adapt it into this industry, because it's mostly people that are doing things the old school way.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better spot for our veterans that are coming in usually with a little bit of money, and a little bit of money coming in every month too, which you kind of need that to start an agency. You know what I mean? And this is the place where you can take that, whatever that lump of money is that you got in that little income stream, and you can put that sucker to work and personally develop and grow something and make something that you're proud of.
Yeah. Yep. Build your annuity.
My man, dude. Well, Justin, again, thanks so much for being on with me today, brother. This is I was proud to meet you, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. It's a wonderful office, wonderful opportunity, and I can't wait to collaborate more, Nick.
My man. Well, folks, we've been hanging with the founder and CEO of the Bobby Brock Insurance Agency, Justin Brock. He's also the founder of MedicareCon. He is a sought-out thought leader, and once again, thank you for your service, a veteran of our proud armed forces. My man. Check him out on justinbrock.com, on Instagram, Facebook, and X at the Justin Brock, on YouTube at Justin Brock, And Medicare Con is also online as well, right? On social media, and MedicareCon.com is the URL. So
That's right.
awesome, man. Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.